Hi everyone, welcome. Hi Anna, hi Becca. Hi Tara. Okay, so I just added Tara, so she should be along shortly.
Hi.
Hi Tara, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I thought we would just wait a few more minutes for a few more folks to join in, and then we'll
For
go
sure.
ahead and we'll get started.
Sounds amazing.
Yeah, how's your day today? Okay?
Yeah, it's been really good. I'm starting to wind down with my day job, so there's a sense of closure coming my way, and then I
Yeah.
have the summer to write, which is lovely. So,
Oh, very good, very good.
how was your day?
Yeah, it was okay. I had a work from home day today, so I was able to catch up on some emails, and we've been getting ready for curbside at the library. So it's been very busy but exciting.
So,
So
I have to say, my list of curbside requests has like slowly been increasing.
that's okay as long as you come to get them. That's fine.
Oh yeah, no, don't worry. My kids have been like literally just every single day they're asking, Mom, are they calling us yet? Are our books ready? Are our books ready?
Oh, that's lovely. Well, we're working hard. Hopefully, do you have a pickup this weekend?
I haven't gotten an email yet, so I think
Oh,
I'm
okay.
still waiting.
We're still working on it. We'll
I,
get them to you.
yeah, but no rush. I know it's probably an amazingly huge undertaking to organize for like an entire
Yeah,
town.
it is. It's such a different way of thinking about library service, but we're really excited that we, can be able to do that for our community and
For sure.
still kind of, be able to connect with people too. So yeah, it's just sort of a different way of thinking of things. Is that it feels strange to not have people in the library and sort of be interacting with people that way, but it's okay. It's what it is.
I say probably a lot quieter.
Yes, in some ways. We have our music going while we pull our books and everything. So
Oh,
mhm.
fun.
Yeah, so it's nice. It's okay. Yeah.
So
So it
exciting.
looks like our little group is growing a little bit. So why don't we hold on for a few more minutes and then we'll go ahead and we'll get started talking all about your book.
For sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'll tell you while we're waiting, because I don't think this will come up in regular conversation.
Oh, sure.
I honestly, my dream job, if I were to sort of retire early from what I currently do, has always been to be a librarian. So
Oh,
it's hilarious because whenever I go into the library, I always stalk your librarian staff. I'm like, so do I really need another master's to do this? Like,
yes.
is there anything
Well,
else
there's different ways you can go about it.
I know? The idea of going back to school is just like, oh, I don't know if I want to do that.
I hear you.
But I
I hear
love,
you.
love, love, love what you guys do. Like every aspect of it is just, oh, it's a dream.
Oh, that's so kind. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do our best.
Amazing.
All right. Yeah, I see all the little hearts go up. I think that's probably all my coworkers saying thank
Aw,
you for the kind words.
so
Well,
sweet.
why don't we go ahead and we'll get started, Tara? And then if more people pop in, that's super. If not, we have a lovely group, so we'll just go ahead and we'll get started. Does that sound good?
Yeah, sounds great.
Lovely. All right. Well, welcome everybody. Thanks for joining us today. We have a special edition of the Social Distance Book Club today, which is our young adult edition. My name is Lisa. I'm the Teen Services Librarian at Milton Public Library. So I'm really excited to be able to co-host this session with Tara because I think it's really important to represent our youth community as well. So I'm really excited about that. And we have Tara K. Ross with us here today. She's a local author, youth mentor, youth advocate, and as I'm sure you may have heard, Milton Public Library super user. So it's really cool for us to be able to have you here today because we see you in the library all of the time. And so it's so lovely to be able to support you in your own endeavors in the same way that you have been able to support us. So thank you.
Aw, thank you. It's a little embarrassing because I'm imagining if there are some of the staff tuning in, they probably recognize me now. They're like, oh, that's Tara.
Yeah, I recognize you from story time, like the Saturday morning story times.
Yep.
When you're picking picture came in, I was like, oh yeah, okay.
You know her, yeah.
Lovely. Well, let's get started right away. Tara is the author of a YA novel called Fade to White. And Tara, for everybody that hasn't had a chance to read the book yet, would you mind giving maybe just a quick synopsis so folks know what we're up to tonight?
Sure, yeah. So Fade to White is my debut novel. So I'm a new novelist, which is super exciting for me. And it is a young adult, obviously, contemporary novel with a touch of magical realism. So those who might not be familiar with all the technical terms, that just means there's like a little bit of a fantasy element, but very, very, very small. It takes place in a community much like Milton. It's modeled in some aspects after Milton. I don't know if you noticed that, but there's definitely some similarities in the town where the book takes place. But it centers around a young girl named Thea who is dealing with grief from the loss of her grandmother, and she's asking really big questions about life. At the beginning of the book, what happens is she finds out that a student in her school has actually committed suicide. And from that, she has all these questions come back up. She's someone who suffers from anxiety as well. And that anxiety just catapults. And she starts to experience these panic attacks that are just surreal. And that's sort of where the magical piece comes in. They allow her to sort of see a light around people. She's all sent into this white sort of fog. And she's sent on this sort of experience and journey to try and figure out what's happening to her, why she's not in control of these panic attacks anymore. And through that, she's able to discover a lot about herself through the help of this enigmatic stranger named Kai. Kind of comes on the scene. So there's a little bit of romance element to it, but not a lot. And yeah, so through that relationship, they're able to sort of explore some of these huge questions that she has about her life. And there's a faith element to that as well. That's sort of more part of my personal story. That I included also. But yeah, so it's a hopeful book that deals with really tough topics in a way that I hope is really supportive of teens who might be going through their own mental health challenges.
Lovely. Yes, and to your point, when I was reading, I very much was thinking of different landmarks in Milton, and I was like, oh, okay. So I could see sort of that local, you know, kind of element or aspect to it.
Yeah.
And it's such a beautiful, beautiful story. Why did you feel that this was an important story, first of all, to tell, and second of all, to tell through the lens of a youth rather than maybe younger children or as an adult book?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I've been fortunate enough to work with teenagers and younger for the past over 10 years now. So my day job, I work in the school board. I'm a speech language pathologist, but I focus a lot on students who are struggling with mental health. And so through my day job, I've had a lot of opportunities to explore how mental health is understood and accepted and talked about among sort of a teen population. And then I have also had a chance to volunteer through the drop-in center in town. So some people might be familiar with Resole. I've sort of served there off and on over the past 10 years as well. So a lot of youth coming in who are dealing with mental health already, mental illness already, and having to find ways to cope through that. And then on top of that, I also really felt passionate about writing a story that showcased a regular teen who is struggling with her mental health, because that was me. As a teen growing up in suburbia, I had nothing that would have come across as looking like I needed help. But I was dealing with anxiety in sort of a perfectionist way. And it was debilitating, and I never really had an opportunity to talk or work through that because it wasn't something you talked about as a teenager. People didn't really acknowledge it. And so those are sort of the background inspirations for why I really felt passionate about this story, and why I really wanted it to be about a teenager who was going through this. Because again, I feel like we're in an epidemic on top of the pandemic, mental illness that a lot of teens are struggling with right now. And I don't think the lockdown and everything that we've been dealing with as well has helped that either. I think that it's almost increased it. A lot of teens are really struggling right now with things like anxiety and depression, and self-harm and suicidal thoughts as well, which is really sad. But again, it's something that we are dealing with as a society, and I really wanted to tackle it and offer hope within that.
Lovely. And I think what's so beautiful is that, you know, youth need people just like you to be mentors and to be advocates for their experiences. And I know with our teen advisory group, so it's our volunteer program of high school students, we talk about mental health all of the time. And I know that it's something that is becoming easier to talk about, but there's still a lot of stigma involved with that. And a lot of them will often tell me how overwhelmed they are with school and extracurriculars and, all of the things that they're trying to do to be successful, and how it's so different than the experience that perhaps you or I might have had growing up. And so I think, it means a lot to our youth to have authors such as yourself that are writing about their experiences that we know are true, and that people are acknowledging that, and saying, I get it. It's hard being a teen. It was then, it is now, just in a different way.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I know that they're very grateful to have supports and mentors just like you. And I sort of wanted to talk a little bit then about my next question, which, when we go to library conferences, we often talk about, sort of the idea of tough topics within publishing, within purchasing for libraries. I'm a believer that it's really important to purchase books that are about sort of these tough topics rather than censoring. And that's what we do as a library. We collect broadly. But I guess, could you speak a little bit to that? Why is it important to be writing these types of books for youth?
Yeah, I think it is critical because younger and younger kids are having these questions, and they're facing these issues. As much as we may not want to acknowledge that, I'm a parent, so I don't want to have to think about these things for my kids. But that's the reality of the world we live in. We're so connected when it comes to social media and the internet, and just even the advertising that is coming through. If your kids are watching YouTube, right? They hear about it, they see it, and they have questions. And so where would I want my kids to be learning about this? Would I want them to be learning it through their friends, or through a meme, or through sort of a social media post? Because that's where they're learning it. A lot of their sort of like media comes from right now. And so when I think about what really influenced my life, it was reading books that dealt with tough topics. And some of the toughest sort of themes are the ones that had the most impact. And I think that writing within sort of a diverse mindset around those topics is so important too, because not every teen is going to come at them from the same viewpoint either.
Exactly.
So I think that we all need to support not only writing, but purchasing and allowing our kids to have opportunities to read broadly, and be exposed to different ways of encountering problems that they're going to have. And so again, for mental health, there's a plethora of authors out there who will tackle the same issues in very different ways. And I love that libraries offer teens the opportunity to look at the back cover, read the couple, first chapters, and say, oh my goodness, this is me. Like, I am this character. I feel so alone. And then they can read through that and say, okay, they are feeling just as strange as I am right now about this. Angry, or just as frustrated, or just as scared. And now they have somebody else, be it fictional or not, that they can say, oh, okay, I can talk to somebody else about this now because I have a little bit more, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's almost like sort of a sense of validation. Maybe you're feeling a particular way, or experiencing, a particular issue or trouble, and you can see these words that maybe you don't even know how to articulate, and you see them written on the page, and it gives you this sense of belonging. And I think that these types of books are so important because, like you said, they give youth a safe place to sort of experiment and explore. It's much safer to do that on the pages of a book than, perhaps in other ways. And I think it's so important to acknowledge the realities and the realities of different people. We think about intersectionality and how they can be so important for teaching empathy and compassion as well. Which sort of leads me to my next question about Thea, and how sort of compassion, I don't want to spoil it too much for anybody who hasn't read it yet, but sort of the gift of compassion is sort of one of the things that she comes to know and understand. And could you tell us a little bit more about that and sort of why you chose that particular gift?
Yeah, so I wanted to explore something that everyone's capable of having, and growing within. And so even though you get these amazing superhero stories and sort of very surreal stories where you have the ability to read someone's mind, vampires come to mind.
Yeah.
And that's amazing. I love that idea. But I also wanted to say, you know what, let's take something a little bit more normal and average, but has the ability to impact people just as much as that. And the idea of making Thea experience somebody else's emotions in a way that was beyond typical human abilities. So it's not giving too much away to realize that in the book, she is able to actually feel somebody's pain in a way that they're actually experiencing it in that moment. And so she's going beyond sympathy, she's going beyond empathy even. She's actually experiencing it with them. And I love the idea of saying, you know, what if when something happens, we actually feel that pain, that emotion, that fear so clearly and so deeply that there is no other choice but to act. And so the idea of her then having this outpouring of compassion is just a part of who she was, based on the fact that she just felt for people in such a way that there was no choice for her not to act in a compassionate way. What an interesting concept that would be if we all could do that. Like, what if we all could grow that amount of compassion, and how would that change how our relationships looked? So yeah, that was sort of the idea behind it. And again, I think that as a novelist, I want to be someone who gives my reader a chance to realize I can grow as a human being, and I can see myself in this character, and I see attributes of this character who I would like to have aspects of that in my own life. So again, that was sort of the hope-filled side for me. I really like the idea of giving inspiration to someone who's going to read Fade to White and really see, wait, I could act on that too. So that was sort of the background of it. Yeah.
I love that. And I love the idea that it sort of makes us all feel like we do have the power and the ability to advocate for change, and that we can all be superheroes sort of in our own way. We don't need to, you know, be bitten by a spider or fall into a vat, like whatever, you know, but that we all have that sort of built into us innately, and that we can act on it. And I think especially with everything that's happening in the world right now, that's so important. So I hope that this will kind of help bring people out of their shell and provide a little bit more sort of inspiration or comfort in acting as well. Lovely. And then I wanted to ask you as well something, and I'm sorry, this is not in the questions that I preset you, but it's not. One of the things that I noticed sort of throughout the book is that Thea has some different coping mechanisms for kind of practicing mindfulness, for, you know, acknowledging that she's having a difficult time and, you know, sort of working through that. And as I was reading, you had these beautiful sort of descriptions that really made me think about, you know, kind of practicing mindfulness in the sense of being aware of your surroundings and really sort of sitting down and taking that moment to say, okay, the sun is shining on me, I can hear the birds singing. And I wondered if that was something that was intentional, or if that's sort of just related to your writing style, or if there's sort of any particular mindfulness sort of activities that you kind of built into your writing for teens to kind of subconsciously pick up on.
Yeah, no, you nailed it, which is amazing. I love people can sort of like check into my mind.
Sorry.
Yeah, because again, I work with a lot of teens and a lot of younger students, school-age students who deal with anxiety. And I've had the opportunity to learn a lot about coping mechanisms for how you can work through those moments when you're very fearful and you might be feeling like you're going to have a panic attack. And so what I really wanted to do, I really wanted to consciously pull on all the aspects of good mental health in her sort of road to finding healing. So again, I really wanted to focus on the fact that counseling is super important, and that's a really important piece for a lot of teens and adults, that talking to someone's a really great strategy.
Absolutely.
Breathing and the mindfulness is so important as well. The creative outlet, that was another piece that I really put in there, the whole idea of her using her theater interests. Physical piece too. I have a health science background. That's my schooling. So I also wanted to pull in the whole idea of like physical health, rest, having a really good diet. So those are all things that will help your mental health. And then the last aspect is the sort of spiritual side of things. So a lot of people, when they think about their mental health, having good spiritual health for them is also an aspect that can be very healing. And so I was kind of using a biopsychosocial spiritual model to just sort of illustrate that. And that, again, came into the whole, trying to go deep into sort of her point of view and realizing sort of her road to recovery was all of those things sort of combined together.
Lovely. And I think what's great is that it's such a great read that you absorb all of that subconsciously, but you also get a really great story that you can connect with out of it, which I think is really like the sign of really good work. So I really enjoyed that element of it.
Good to hear when a librarian says that, because you guys are like the top.
So I wanted to ask you as well, sort of less so specifically about your book, but about kind of the YA genre in general. YA sort of, as I'm sure you know, it was not really a thing for a while, and then we sort of had the introduction of The Outsiders, and we had a woman writing as a man, and then it was sort of not a thing, and then it was not quality literature, and now it has just exploded.
Yeah, it's huge now.
It's huge. And I wanted to sort of advocate and talk a little bit about, like, why is YA important? That it's not just silly stories about vampires. Why do our youth need YA, and why is it important for community building and for, building a sense of self?
Yeah. Again, I have read young adult fiction throughout my life. Even noticing that it would be classified as that. It wasn't until I started writing that I realized, oh wait, there's specific genres for this. And even within the library, I at first was confused because I'm like, where are the books I would really like from like a book club or something? So that they were sort of like subdivided. I had to realize that. Because I think there's something about stories that are grouped under young adult that is so just captivating for whatever age you're at, because you're dealing with characters who are coming to a point in their life where they are no longer just believing what their parents would tell them or following with what society has sort of explained to them. Now they're starting to ask these really great questions. Now they're starting to explore the world for themselves, and they're having these what they call coming of age stories where they're realizing who they are, what they want to be in the world, and how they want to change the world. And what an amazing period in a person's life to sort of have an opportunity to join with them and journey with them in that space. So that's why I love the genre. I think it's so necessary. But I also think that as readers who are sort of 12 to 18, which would be sort of your young adult range, we need to write really captivating stories for them, because we don't want to lose them as readers. And I think it's so easy to see reading is no longer a priority when you have so many other media influences out there.
Very much so, yeah.
Right? And the stories that are available now are so amazing. Like, again, if you have a teenager at home, read the stories for yourself and then say, oh my goodness, this is so much better than Netflix. Like, I'm serious. It's going to be on Netflix in 2 years from now, but you can read it now before anybody else has even watched it.
Exactly. Exactly. And I think, like, everybody, I always say, sometimes, people will sometimes feel like it's not a worthy genre, but everybody reads for different reasons. And some people read to escape, and you want to read a fantasy book that has nothing to do in real life because you just need to get away.
Yeah.
Some people want to learn, they want to explore. Some people want to experiment. But stories have such power. And I think for youth being able to see themselves reflected in the page of the book, I think it's so important for youth being seen and feeling like they're being seen. And I don't know. I always sort of say, like, last year I read 5 adult books, and like that was a big year for me because I don't really read books. I always read YA.
Yeah, same.
And like a lot of people will often be like, why are you reading this? And stories are amazing. And it's sort of like you said, this incredible moment in youth's lives where not only they're learning about different things out in the world, but they're learning that they have the power to act on them as well, which is so, so, so important. And like you said, YA is not just for youth. It's for grown-ups. So you can send up a little heart if you're a grown-up that also reads YA. And I think that can be so, like you said, so important for sort of understanding a little bit more about the youth experience and all of sort of the pressures that might go into, you know, just day-to-day life that is so different. I know our youth, when we talk in TAG, they always say, you know, they're tired of people telling them to suck it up or you'll be fine, stop, you know, panicking, stop making a big deal out of this. But the reality is that it's so different to be a youth today. So I think it's really important. So if you're out there and you read YA, thumbs up. And you can come and see me or Tara and we'll give you some recommendations.
Oh yeah. I have like entire bookshelves of YA novels, and
So that actually goes to my next question. Do you have a favorite YA book? Like a book that you read that sort of really resonated with you or changed something about the way you thought about the world?
Yeah, oh my goodness. Whenever I get this question, I always feel so overwhelmed to limit it to one because they're like my babies and they all have unique qualities and each one is special. And so I
understand completely.
Right? And then there's classic YA and then there's like last year YA. So
yeah. That's so true. I always, when we're pulling the holds list for our curbside, like I always make off with the YA list, and I'm just like, I'll see you all in half an hour. Leave me be.
Right. Yes. There's so many. And I've been fortunate to be a part of a debut group where it's all debut YA authors, and there's like
cool.
in that I'm like, oh. But yes. So if I had to limit it to like a few.
And you can throw yours in the comment too if anybody else has. I see the Book Thief.
The Book Thief, amazing. Yeah, like I love the Divergence. I'm just gonna claim it. I love the Divergence. I love
it. You gotta own it.
Classics, right? Like they seem like classics to me now. I love anything John Green because he's just the Turtles All the Way Down was very inspirational for me while I was writing Fade to White.
Of course. Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, so that one was really sort of special to me. Might not be as familiar with, but Nadine Brandis, who wrote Fox and Romanoff. She is a fantastic storyteller. She's got historical fantasy is sort of her genre.
Oh, that's right up my alley.
Yeah, very unique, but such a good storyteller. So I love her as well.
To check her out.
Oh man.
Like I'm a huge fan of Six of Crows, and also for all my coworkers that are watching, there's one other one that's actually an adult book, but it's a good YA read, so you can throw that in the comments if you know what I'm going to say. We'll see if anyone guesses.
Which one was it?
So, Daughter of Smoke and Bone is one of Becca's favorites. So one of my favorites is Beartown. I don't know if you've read that one by Friedrich Bachman. Oh, Tara.
Yeah. I need to read it.
My gosh. It's so good. It is so good.
I haven't read it because it's adult.
But it's actually about youth. And I won't ruin it for you, but it is such a great book. I see Anna has a recommendation, Dread Nation. Lovely.
I might need to add that to my my pile of library.
Yeah. That just keeps going. I understand. All right. Well, Tara, I'm afraid that brings us to 7:30. It's gone by so quickly. So I just wanted to say thank you so much for taking the time to join us this evening. It was our absolute pleasure to have you and to be able to talk YA and advocating for youth. It's so important for our community to have authors and mentors just like you to kind of advocate for our kiddos. So thank you for writing your book and for everything that you do. And for our viewers that are still hanging around. We are actually going to continue the conversation next week on mental health with a visit from Clara Hughes, who's going to speak about her book, Open Heart, Open Mind. So I'll be back next week. And if anybody is interested in hearing a little bit more about the youth experience, we did interview 2 of our teen volunteers, Titi and Naditi, on our podcast called Beyond the Stacks. And so you can visit our webpage as well if you would like to check that out and hear a little bit more about what they have to say about growing up in the 21st century.
Oh, I can't wait to listen into that too.
Yeah, they did such a great job.
This was so much fun. Thank you again.
Thank you for joining us, Tara. Have a great evening and a good weekend, and hopefully we'll see you for Curbside soon.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it. Bye.
Okay, bye-bye.